Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. The question that guided the previous lesson was, why are universal concepts important? And we saw that universal concepts are important to logicians because all inference requires universal concepts, and logicians are interested in giving us the rules for correct inference. There are two kinds of inference we saw in the previous lesson and in lessons before that. Inference is either conceptual inference or propositional inference. The rules of conceptual inference and the rules of propositional inference together make up the entire subject matter of logic. And logicians, they begin with a study of conceptual inference because it presupposes propositional inference. So if universal concepts are important for inference and we're beginning with conceptual inference, this leads us to the question, how exactly should universals be used for conceptual inference? We need to, answering this question will tell us the rules for correct conceptual inference. Now, we won't answer that question in this lesson, but this lesson will be the first step towards answering that question. Before we can answer that question, we need to understand 5 kinds of universals that are called the 5 universals. And that's the subject matter of this lesson. This lesson is about the 5 universals. The 5 universals are also called the 5 categories, the 5 predicables. The 5 universals are historically very important because Porphyry's isagogy focused on these 5 universals. It was almost entirely focused on these 5 universals. Other topics that were treated in his isagogy were only treated in a cursory manner. And for that reason, although the word isagogy means introduction in Greek, as we saw previously, but because of its focus on the 5 universals, it was often called by, in medieval times, and before that, it was the name that was given to his isagogy was the 5 universals, and that's why many Muslim scholars, they thought that the word isagogy actually means the 5 universals. So the 5 universals, they were central to Porphyry's isagogy. They are very important to Abhari's isagogy, but they're not the only topic that he treats. It's one of the many chapters. Abhari's isagogy is more refined, has more topics, more organized, but the 5 universals are an important topic. So the universals, the way that we get to the 5 universals is we first divide universals into 2 kinds of universals: essential universals and non-essential universals. So Abhari, he says that universals are either essential or non-essential. He says, Al-kulli imma dhati wa imma aradi. So a kulli dhati is an essential universal, and a kulli aradi is a non-essential universal. He's going to give several examples to illustrate these 2 kinds of universals and their subcategorizations. Before we delve into those examples, we need to look at this category tree. This category tree, the goal of this category tree is it's part of a more detailed tree whose goal is to categorize all existent things. This category tree it represents the metaphysics of kalam. We saw in an earlier lesson that kalam inherited Aristotelian philosophy and swallowed it up, and a number of subjects that were previously discussed in an un-Islamic, non-religious, philosophical way came to be discussed in a philosophical way that was combined with religion, and it became consonant with religion. So one of these topics was pre-modern science, so this, you could say it's metaphysics, or you can say actually maybe a more accurate description would be natural philosophy. Natural philosophy of kalam. And so in the tradition of the Aristotelian philosophers, Muslims, they sought to learn about everything that existed and to categorize it in a particular way based on pre-modern scientific methods. So this categorization might not always correspond to how a modern scientist would categorize things, its conclusions and its observations might not correspond with the way that the conclusions and observations of a modern scientist, and in many areas it needs to be corrected. However, although from a scientific perspective it might need to be updated or it might not need to be updated, we need to be critical of both pre-modern philosophy and also some aspects of modern science. Although some aspects of it need to be corrected, from a scientific perspective, Islamically, theologically, they are sound. And that's actually very useful because if you see what the Muslims did to Aristotelian philosophy, it gives you an idea of how perhaps modern science might be integrated into an Islamic theological perspective that makes it so that it's both scientifically rigorous and also theologically sound, and it fits with all of the Islamic sciences. So what we actually need is we need Muslim scholars who are grounded in both, like Ghazali was, to incorporate modern science into the traditional Islamic sciences. But that's another topic. Let's return to the metaphysics of Kalam, or the natural philosophy of Kalam. So the Mutakallimun, they categorized all existent things into two categories. God is an existent thing that exists necessarily, and he's the only necessary being. What it means for someone to exist necessarily is that he cannot not exist, and he is the source of all other existence, which is called the universe. And the universe is not necessary, but it's contingent, meaning that it could not have been, and it could have been some other way. Every aspect of the universe needs something to make it the way that it is, and that is and the one who did that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the necessary being. The things in the universe are divided into various categories. There are physical objects, which are things that occupy space. They have a location and they take up space. And there are other categories of existent things that come to a total of 10. Now, the 10 categories is something that you might have heard about. It's an important section of Aristotle's philosophy. He categorized all existent things into 10 categories. So the Muslims, they inherited this, they corrected them. They made many corrections, both theological and philosophical, and it's a very interesting study to see how the Muslims, what they did to Aristotle's 10 categories. But we won't get into that. For now, we'll just focus on physical objects, because all of the examples in logic that we're going to see that illustrate essential and non-essential universals and the five universals are going to be based on these on various kinds of physical objects and their properties. So they would divide physical objects into two kinds of physical objects, either animals or animate objects. An animal is something. What is an animal? An animal, they would say, is something that that willfully moves. It makes a choice to move, and then it moves. Mutaharrikun bil irada. So a horse is an animal because it can make a decision and choice to move, and it moves. A rock is not an animal, neither is a tree, because it does not move by choice, but it's simply a tree. It simply grows. So animals are the opposite of the complementary category of animals under physical objects is inanimate things like minerals and plants. There are many kinds of animals. One important kind of animal is the human being. The human being is an animal because the definition of animal is something that moves willfully, and human beings, they move willfully. And there are other kinds of animals too, such as horses, lions, and many, many other kinds of animals. Now, human beings, so these are all, human beings are a kind of animal. Underneath human beings, you have specific human beings. These are specific instances such as Zaid, Hamza, Mary, and other particular human beings. With this category tree, we are going to look at various logical concepts. And so the Muslim logicians, they illustrated their logical concepts in light of this very quickly presented natural philosophy. This raises questions about the relevance of logic today if this natural philosophy is no longer prevalent. And these are important questions, and we will discuss them in a subsequent lesson, in the lesson that follows this lesson. But for now, just focus on this, understanding this, and understanding what the five universals are to the Muslim logicians. And so they begin by dividing universals into essential and non-essential universals. And then Abhari says that a universal is essential when it enters into the essence of its species. When it enters into the essence of its species. So the species of animals, there are various species of animals. Humans is a species of animals. Horses are a species of animals. Lions are a species of animals. And there are other species of animals. The universal animal, this universal concept of animal, is essential to all of these species because it enters into the essence of what they are. So if you ask, what is a lion? The answer is going to be, it is a particular kind of animal. What kind? That's the job of a natural philosopher, a pre-modern scientist, to investigate. But they'll give some kind of qualification. Horses are a kind of animal, and humans are a kind of animal. What kind of animal? They would say a rational animal. So a universal is essential when it enters into the essence of a species, of its species. So like the concept animal with respect to the concepts human and horse, and you could go on lions and other animal concepts. So the concept animal is an essential universal with respect to its species. This is important. Whether a universal is essential or non-essential is a relative description of that universal. It is only essential with respect to a particular universal, and it's non-essential with respect to a particular universal. So animal is essential with respect to the various kinds of animals. And he says, so there's more. What does it mean? What is an essence? We're going to talk about essence in the next lesson when we discuss some of these pre-modern elements that we find in the works of logicians, and it's relevant today in light of modern science and other and modern philosophy. So we'll talk about essence later on, but for now, all you need to know is that the essence of something is what that thing is. So this is what an essential universal is. What's a non-essential universal? He says a universal is non-essential when it is otherwise, i.e. when it does not enter into the essence of its species. He says, like the concept something that laughs with respect to the concept human. So the concept animal is essential to the concept human. A human is a kind of animal. But the concept something that laughs is not essential to human beings, even though it's an exclusive property of human beings. We'll see later on in this lesson. Meaning that only human beings are capable of true laughter. Only human beings are capable of true laughter because only human beings can find something funny, because only human beings are rational. Finding something funny requires rationality, and true laughter requires finding something funny. And that's why laughter is an exclusive property of human beings, yet it's not essential to them. What is a human being? You don't say that laughter is something that's essential to a human being. It constitutes what a human being is. How do you know that? Well, that's a philosophical judgment, and it does raise many questions. People might disagree, but for now, we're not going to get into that discussion. We just want to focus on the illustration. These examples are good enough for illustration. We want to get a general idea of what it means for something to be essential and what it means for something to be non-essential. So the universals are either essential or non-essential. Now, what Abhari is going to tell us is that there are three kinds of essential universals and two kinds of non-essential universals. These are the five universals. 3 plus 2 equals 5, and the three essential and two non-essential universals together are called the five universals. That is the topic of this lesson. Let's start with the essential universals, the three kinds of essential universals. The first kind of essential universal is called the genus. Athiruddin al-Abhari, he says that essential universals are either, and he talks about the first of the three kinds, namely the genus, and he says that essential universals are either first, so what is the characteristic of the genus? He says it is something that is predicated of multiple concepts in response to the question, what are they solely with respect to what is common between them? So first we need multiple concepts. These are humans, horses, lions, and other kinds of animals. So if you consider all of these concepts, the concept horse, the concept lion, the concept human, the concept animal is predicated of all of these concepts, meaning you say humans are animals, horses are animals, lions are animals, other kinds of animals, ostriches, otters, monkeys are animals. So animal is a concept that is predicated of multiple concepts. There are many concepts, humans, horses, lions, and so on. And if you ask about any one of these concepts, what are they solely with respect to what is common between them? In other words, if you ask about humans, horses, lions, all of these concepts together, you say, if I take them all together, what are they? What are humans, horses, lions, otters, and so on, solely with respect to what is common between them? What is their only commonality that enters into their essence, what they are? You will say they are animals. And so this kind of universal is called a genus. In Arabic it's called a jins, and the plural of genus in English is genera. So this is a general description of a genus. What's its more precise definition? He says that a genus is non-essentially defined. Now this will raise the question, what's a non-essential definition? What's an essential definition? We're going to put this word aside. So we're just going to look at the fact that it is a definition. In fact, it's not a non-essential definition. And the commentators on Abhari's Isagoji, they point this out and they say that it's an essential definition. But let's put essential, non-essential definitions aside now. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to study a commentary of the Isagoji in the future, that would be, once we have an idea of the basic concepts of logic, it would be suitable at that point to go into detail about whether this definition is essential or non-essential. But for now, we're just going to say a genus is defined as a universal. So the concept animal is a genus. It's a genus with respect to its species that are below it. So remember, all of these categorizations are relative. Something is only a genus relative to something else. So a genus is defined as a universal. So the concept animal is a universal that is predicated of multiple universal concepts. So the concept animal is predicated of humans. You say humans are animals. It's predicated of horses. You say horses are animals. It's predicated of lions. You say lions are animals, and so on. He says it's a universal that is predicated of multiple universal concepts with different essences. This is important. It's important to note that humans are a different kind of thing than horses. Humans and horses are different kinds of things. They have different essences. So the concept animal is predicated of all of these different kinds of concepts that are different things. This is important because if you look just below humans, you see Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and other individual human beings. These are not different kinds of things. They are all human beings. But the essence of Zayd is not different than the essence of Hamza, is not different than the essence of Mary. But the essence of humans is different than the essence of horses, is different than the essence of lions, and so on. So in order for something to be a genus, it needs to be predicated of different concepts that have different essences. So if you return to our definition, he says a genus is defined as a universal that is predicated of multiple universal concepts with different essences. In response to the question, what are they? What are humans, horses, lions, and so on? These things that have different essences. And the answer is they are all animals. And so animal is a genus. So the concept animal with respect to the concepts human and horse is a genus. So this is the first of the three kinds of essential universals. The second is species. So Athiruddin al-Abhari, he says, or they, i.e. essential universals, are, and he gives us the second kind of essential universal, which is going to be a species. He says they are predicated of multiple concepts in response to the question, what are they with respect to what is common between them, and with respect to what they are essentially. So let's take so the example that he's going to give is the lowest row. So if you take Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and other particular human beings, concepts of instances of human beings, and you ask of all of these concepts together, and you say, what are they? What are Zayd, Hamza, and Mary, and so on? What are they with respect to what is common between them? What are Zayd, Hamza, and Mary with respect to what is common between them? Well, they are all human. So he says, what are they with respect to what is common between them, and with respect to what they are essentially? What they essentially are. This is what differentiates it from the species. So not only is the concept human common to all of them, but the concept human is actually what they are essentially. It is what they are. Whereas the concept animal, although it was common to humans, horses, lions, human is not just an animal. Horses are not just an animal. That is not what human beings are. That is not what horses are. Human beings are rational animals. So the concept animal does not capture the essence of humans, but the concept human does capture the essence of Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and so on. And so the concept human is a species. It's a species with respect to Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and the other instances, because it is predicated of multiple concepts, Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and so on, in response to the question, what are they? What are Zayd, Hamza, and Mary with respect to what is common between them, and also with respect to what they are essentially, what they essentially are. So the common factor between them is that they are humans, and they are humans, in which case they are termed species. In Arabic we say an-nawa. So the definition of species, again, we're going to put aside the word non-essential because these are actually essential definitions. Why that is, we'll study in the future if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq to study a commentary on this work. He says a species is defined as a universal that is predicated of multiple singular concepts. So Zayd is a concept, but it's a singular concept. So the concept animal was predicated of universal concepts. The concept animal was predicated of humans, horses, and lions, which are all universals, but the concept human here is being predicated of Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and so on, which are all singular concepts. So he said a species is defined as a universal that is predicated of multiple singular concepts with different identities but the same essence. So Zayd, Hamza, Mary have different identities, they are different individuals, but they have the same essence. They are all human beings. And this predication happens in response to the question, what are they? For example, the concept human with respect to the concepts Zayd and Amr. Amr is another proper name. So this is a species, which is the second of the three kinds of essential universals. The third kind is the specific difference. And Athiruddin al-Abhari, he says, or they are, and he talks about the third kind of essential universal, namely the specific difference, and he says they are not predicated in response to the question, what is it? So this sets specific differences aside from genera and species, because in order to determine whether something is a genus, you need to say, what is it, with respect to what is common between them. And in order to determine whether something is a species, you need to ask, what is it, with respect to what is common between them and with respect to what they are essentially. But if you want to determine whether something is a specific difference, you don't ask a what is it question. Instead, you ask the question, it's predicated in response to the question, what kind of thing is it essentially? So if we take human beings and you say, not human beings, the concept human, and you say what kind of thing, in other words, what kind of thing, you can replace thing with the genus, the word thing, and so you can say what kind of animal is human essentially, and you say the answer is that human beings are rational animals. So what kind of animal is a human? It's a rational animal. So when you predicate a universal in response to this kind of question, he says this is called a specific difference in Arabic. This is called fasl. So the definition of a specific difference, again, we're putting aside this non-essential qualification. He says a specific difference is defined as a universal that is predicated of a species concept. So human is a species concept. So you take a species like human or horse or lion and you ask what kind of, you plug in genus, animal, is it? What kind of thing is it? What kind of genus is it? What kind of animal is horse? The answer would be the specific difference of horse. What kind of lion? What kind of animal is lion? The answer would be the specific difference of lion. What kind of animal is human? A rational animal. So a specific difference is that universal concept which sets one of the species apart from its other species that belong to the same genus. So a specific difference is defined as a universal that is predicated of a species concept in response to the question, what kind of thing, i.e. what kind of genus, and you substitute the genus in there, what kind of thing is it essentially? For example, the concept rational with respect to the concept human. So you ask, what kind of animal is human essentially? And the answer is a rational animal, and so rational is a specific difference. These are the three kinds of essential universals: genus, species, and specific difference. If you've been following carefully, you'll see that a species is actually composed of a specific difference and genus. So you can say that the species human is a rational animal, and what you have here is what the logicians, they call an essential definition. And so what we're seeing is the usefulness of these three kinds of universals is that you can compose them in a particular way to define a concept, to conceptually infer the meaning of a concept. More on that in a future lesson. This was just a snippet to show you where we're headed with the five universals. Let's move now to non-essential universals. The non-essential universals can be divided into two categories. Athiruddin al-Abhari says that non-essential universals are either inseparable universals, these are called arad lazim, or separable universals, these are called arad mufariq. What's the difference between the two? He says that a non-essential universal is termed inseparable when it is inseparable from the essence that it is predicated of. So, for example, if we take the essence humanness, a non-essential universal with respect to human that is inseparable is something that potentially laughs. So something that potentially laughs is predicated of humans. So we can say humans are things that potentially laughs. A human is something that potentially laughs. Now, this kind of universal, something that potentially laughs, is not essential to humans. It's not essential. Why? Because it doesn't constitute what a human being is. The thing that constitutes what a human being is rationality and animalness. So something that potentially laughs is not essential to a human being. Yet it is inseparable from a human being, because the potentiality to laugh, in other words, the capability to laugh, true laughter that arises from finding something funny, is inseparable from human beings, because it is an inevitable consequence of their rationality. Whenever someone is rational, they have the potential to find something funny. Now, again, this is a philosophical judgment that someone might want to disagree with, and there will be many people in the modern age who will disagree with this, perhaps rightfully, perhaps without right. But that's not what concerns us at the moment. What concerns us at the moment is the illustration. We don't want to get lost in a particular example. So the point here is that something that potentially laughs is predicated of humans, but it's not essential, yet it's inseparable. So you could have a universal that's inseparable from another universal and yet not be essential to it. Or you could have a non-essential universal that is separable, like something that actually laughs. So human beings, the potentiality of laughter, the capability of laughing, is inseparable from a human being. But actual laughter is separable, because human beings, sometimes they laugh and sometimes they don't laugh, and you might have a human being that never actually laughs. So actual laughter is separable. It's non-essential, and it's separable from the essence of the human being. Now, this division of universals into separable and inseparable universals is a division of non-essential universals. Okay, this is as for essential universals, all of them are inseparable. That's part of what it means for a universal to be essential, that it cannot be found apart from the thing that it is essential to ever. It's one of the consequences of essentiality. More on this in the next lesson. So non-essential universals are either separable or inseparable. But this division of non-essential universals into separable or inseparable universals is not part of the division of the five universals. The five universals are two other kinds of non-essential universals, and the first of these other kinds is called the exclusive universal. So an exclusive universal could be an essential, could be a separable, or it could be an inseparable universal. And that's why he says that both inseparable and separable universals, so these are two kinds of non-essential universals, and the remaining two of the five universals can come out of either of them. So he says that both inseparable and separable universals are either what? An exclusive universal. What is an exclusive universal? It's a universal that is only predicated of a single essence. So, for example, the universal rational, we already saw, is a specific difference. So, so only humans are rational, and rational is called a specific difference of humans, something that is rational, is a specific difference of humans because it differentiates the species of human from other species of animals. So specific in specific difference means to do with species. It doesn't mean particular. So it's the thing that differentiates the species human from the other species of animals, rational. So this differentiation could also happen with an exclusive universal. What's an exclusive universal? An exclusive universal is an example of an exclusive universal is something that laughs. So something that laughs is an exclusive universal with respect to human beings. Why? Let's read what Abhari says. He says, because it is only predicated of a single essence. So only human beings laugh. Horses, lions, other kinds of animals do not laugh. So an exclusive universal has the same differentiating quality that a specific difference does. The difference between the two is that the specific difference is essential to the essence, whereas an exclusive universal is non-essential to the essence. So over here he says that such as the concept something that laughs, whether potentially or actually. The potential to laugh is inseparable. The actuality of laughing is separable. Whether you take potential laughter or actual laughter, in either case the universal will be exclusive to human beings, and it will be an exclusive universal that sets it apart from the other species of animals. And because it behaves like a specific difference and sets humans apart from other species of animals, it can also function in a definition. It can take the place of the specific difference. And when you you can specify, you can choose, you can point out a particular species either with a specific difference, in which case it would be an essential definition, or with an exclusive universal. And if you do that, this is something that's called a non-essential definition. Both essential and non-essential definitions will be topics of a future lesson, but this is we're just looking ahead to see the value of what we're learning, to conceptual inference. So he defines an exclusive universal, and he says an exclusive universally can be non-essentially. We're going to get rid of this word, just as we've done in the previous examples. An exclusive universal can be defined as a universal that is only non-essentially predicated of a single essence, i.e. of a single essence among and it sets that essence apart, and thereby it sets that essence apart from the other species of the higher genus. So something that laughs is an exclusive universal with respect to the concept human, because it is only non-essentially predicated of humans. The second kind of non-essential universal, the counterpart of exclusive universals, are general universals. General universals, he says, or they are second kind of non-essential universals, predicated of many different essences, in which they are termed general universals, arad am, such as the concept something that breathes, whether potentially or actually. Potentially, something that potentially breathes would be an inseparable universal. It would be inseparable from human beings or horses or lions. All of them potentially breathe. Actual breathing is separable. Sometimes they breathe, sometimes you can hold your breath. So this division is a division of non-essential universals. Whether they're separable or inseparable, they can be general, such as the universal something that breathes with respect to humans. Humans breathe. Why is it a general universal? Because he said it can be predicated of many different essences, whereas an exclusive universal could only be predicated of humans, not to any other species of animal. A general universal, such as something that breathes, can be predicated to humans as well as the other species of animals, horses, lions, and so on. This is called a general universal. It's called general because it can be predicated of all the other kinds of species. A general universal, its definition, he says it can be non-essentially, get rid of non-essentially, it can be defined as a universal that is non-essentially predicated of many different essences. So these are the 5 universals, 3 essential and 2 non-essential. Let's review them. The first one of the 5 universals, an essential universal, is the genus. An example of a genus is the concept animal with respect to the concept human, and horses and lions and other kinds of animals. Animal is a genus of all of these kinds of concepts. The second one of the 5 universals is a specific difference. This is like the universal concept rational with respect to humans. Rational is a specific difference of humans because it sets human beings apart from the other species of animal. The third of the 5 universals is the species. This is like humans with respect to its instances. So humans is the species of Zayd, Hamza, Mary, and other particular human beings. Then you have exclusive universals. These are like these are similar to specific differences, except they're non-essential. So it's like something that laughs with respect to human beings. And finally, you have a general universal, like something that breathes, which applies generally. It can be predicated generally of humans, horses, lions, or other kinds of animals. So these are the 5 universals. We'll now learn how to use the 5 universals in conceptual inference, but before we do that, I'm sure you're thinking of a number of questions, such as, how do I find the universals that are essential to a particular essence? What's the proper process of doing that? What's the way of doing that? What if somebody disagrees that rationality is essential to human beings, or animalness is essential to human beings, or that something that laughter is non-essential? How do I work out these differences? And the second question, which I'm sure you're thinking, is, isn't all of this obsolete? Now we have science and we investigate other things about human beings, such as their DNA, or the digestive process and the enzymes that are involved in digestion, and other kinds of things about human beings that are more advanced. And rationality, what's the point of all of these things? It doesn't tell us something much very useful about human beings. Everybody knows they're rational. So isn't all of this obsolete? It looks very unscientific. And if it's obsolete, then isn't all of this inapplicable? It seems like medieval logic, the logic of a previous time, we now should need a new logic. Why are we talking about all of these ancient things? That's going to be the topic of the next lesson. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والله سبحانه وتعالى أعلم وهو حسبنا ونعم الوكيل.